I think it's fascinating to look at the impact of the African market and what it can do to tourism, and especially in attracting local travel. At a macro level, we must note that South Africa has been very highly dependent of African travelers. Pre-COVID, we were given statistics by South African Tourism, and we were told that up to 74% of arrivals into South Africa were constituted of the African market. And so when we zone into Africa, we recognize countries and regions like SADC, the Botswanas, Lesotho, Eswatini as being such important countries. And further up, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. And of course, your West African and East African countries that become such key parts of our tourism traveler coming in from our other parts of Africa. We certainly have to recognize that as hoteliers, which is what I do, we must provide experiences that individuals coming from other parts of the continent are looking for. And most of all, South Africa has a very sentimental point and is looked at as a country of, liberation, where Nelson Mandela and the Winnie Mandelas, the Walter Sisulus, and many, many other struggle icons emanate from. And that would be one of the reasons that people would want to come for a historic or liberation run, and therefore definitely want to go to Soweto and many other of the national heritage sites. Coming to our local traveler, we recognized again the importance of local travel. After COVID, restrictions were lifted. We saw a lot of local travelers wanting to, shred their or shake off their cabin fever, traveling all over South Africa and wanting to experience their country. They had not traveled, they had some savings, so they had some discernible income. And that was when I think we as the accommodation providers also rose to the occasion and recognized that we could have been doing more, and we did. We recognized that families were traveling, so we needed to have family experiences. We recognized that business people were traveling, so we needed to make sure that we offered business facilities and amenities. And sometimes it was even just a combination, what became known as pleasure. We had what was the nomadic travelers. People were traveling just, to get away and wanting to discover the entire South Africa. And so that was a wonderful, wonderful return and bounce back from the COVID period. So when it comes to providing unique experiences or offerings that we as hoteliers can provide to domestic tourists, I think again, we were pushed out of our comfort zone and we really came out of our square box and started thinking much more dynamically. So I'll give you some examples. We have hotels that are conveniently located throughout South Africa, 59 hotels including Mozambique, Botswana, and Namibia. And our 56 hotels in South Africa are usually located either next to hospitals or next to beautiful malls. But more recently, some of our newer hotels have started taking on a different flavor. So let me talk about City Lodge Newtown, which is located in the heart of the city of Johannesburg. City Lodge Newtown would be a perfect example of if you were looking for an experience of the African experience. Street food, African music, art and culture, nightlife, and all of that coming to life essentially, in the evening, and all those flavors. Can you just imagine all of that? And then conveniently located next to the City Lodge Newtown, where once you're done with your exciting discovery of the city, you can go and easily check in. We're next to a market theatre, which is one of the oldest theatres dating way back pre-1994, that historically also was the place where people expressed themselves through art and culture. And that continues to be a wonderful venue for people wanting to go to the theatre or to go and watch plays and shows. So that's a perfect example of how hotels can provide experiences that are unique to local travelers. Another perfect example would be our hotels, which are located in Gqeberha, which is in the eastern part of South Africa. And we have a beautiful, beautiful vantage point where we have our road lodge, called the Road Lodge Port Elizabeth. We have the City Lodge Port Elizabeth. We have the Town Lodge Port Elizabeth and the Courtyard Port Elizabeth, all lined up and facing that beautiful view of sea. So imagine the experience: sun, sea, and beach all in one. Usually people would be coming for business during the week, and over the weekends, it's very fast becoming a place where leisure travelers are wanting to come and just let their hair down and enjoy, as I've already described, that beautiful scene of sun, sea, beach, and just relaxation in the outdoors. Now, remember, COVID also pushed people into wanting to be in the outdoors just to experience what it was like to be in fresh air. So those are examples, I think, perfect examples, at least in the City Lodge Hotel stead, of how hotels can really be used to provide those unique experiences that our guests or travelers are looking for. So effective marketing and communication of all our offerings has really become a key aspect, I think, of making sure that we attract guests, travelers, to coming to stay in our hotels. And one of these greatest discoveries is, of course, social media. We can't live without social media. And we have, as City Lodge Hotels, really expanded our footprint and exposure and access for anyone wanting to travel. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, just essentially all the different platforms, X. And it's there through wonderful messaging and our recent campaign, which was recently launched, called Life is Hard, Check Into Easy. And literally that's what we're talking about. We're saying life is hard. There's so much going on in our lives, whether it's business or family, just, the whole schlep of life. So make it easy, check into easy. Come and stay with us at a City Lodge Hotel or a Road Lodge or a Town Lodge or a Courtyard. And so platforms like social media become extremely important. Of course, print, radio, television. And if you're traveling at our airports, you're sure to see, as you're waiting for your suitcase, messaging that again talks about how you can check into easy and how we can make your life easy. So we've really enjoyed social media and we continue to discover more and more. We have a whole team behind the scenes. There is an individual who literally sits all day typing away and making sure there's engagement with people. We are engaging influencers. We have a beautiful hotel called the Courtyard Hotel Waterfall. And it's just wonderful sometimes on evenings where, Thursday night or Friday, where things start happening. If you're standing in the lobby and you see these young influencers, the millennials as they're called, taking videos of themselves and creating content for their own messaging. And so we're having a lot of fun with social media. So we have some really wonderful stories of many of our hotels, but I think one that stands out more recently is the Courtyard Hotel in Waterfall City. And Courtyard Hotel Waterfall City is just one of those hotels that I think where we broke our mold as City Lodge Hotels in everything, in its design, in its look and feel. We have 5 courtyards across the country, one in Pretoria, in Arcadia, one in Port Elizabeth at the sea, as I spoke about earlier, one in Sandton and one in Rosebank. And this particular one doesn't look anything like any of the older versions. So it is really what we call our new mold. It is 9 stories high with beautiful beautiful restaurants, the Protea restaurant and the High Line. The High Line is located and situated on the 9th floor with beautiful sprawling views that, are just to die for, and show you all the way up to Ponte Towers in Johannesburg. Right down there, you can see as far as the eye can see. But of course, more than anything, I think it's just the design and the architectural and interior design that was applied. We took advantage also of making sure that we were green building, so it is really environmentally friendly in terms of the lighting, in terms of the water restrictors that you'd find on various taps and appliances, and also, of course, that we have solar. We have been implementing a whole installation plan of solar panels in the past in our 25 hotels, and now going forward another 40 some hotels. Eventually all our hotels will be able to have their own additional solar energy. So coming back to this courtyard, the Courtyard Hotel in Waterfall City, I think what it has done for the domestic tourism market is just again in an area that is new and upcoming, using this hotel to attract and give an experience that is just so unique. It's conveniently located, and that's what guests are looking for. They're looking for convenience. So it's right opposite the Mall of Africa, in walking distance if you're a guest. Beautiful underground parking, ample parking if you're driving, and if you want to be dropped off, a beautiful drop-off area. The other thing that I think guests are looking for in today's world is elevated levels of service. People want good service. And we've used this particular hotel as sort of, again, our template of what we mean when we talk about that elevated level of service. We have a wonderful team led by General Manager Brendan Luchtig, who is a stickler for attention to detail, but also just lives and breathes our ethos of good service excellence, but service from the heart, and just a wonderful team. And I'm not saying this, we read the reviews that we get on TripAdvisor, on Google reviews, on our own Raters platform, and it's just heartwarming to see the different feedback that we get from guests. We also get good constructive feedback that helps us also go back to the drawing board. The other aspect that was introduced in this wonderful hotel, again, recognizing what our guests were looking for, food and beverage. City Lodge Hotels was not really big on food. Breakfast was our sort of first and last meal of the day. We had our hashtag cafes that we had introduced into our city lodges. But once again, this courtyard waterfall just became the hotel where we were able to really mark and leave an indelible mark in terms of what food and beverage means. We have a chef who has introduced some amazing menus, seasonal menus that change every so often so guests don't get bored. We've used all types of, new age food creativity. We take care of people's dietary requirements, people who want to eat vegan food, people who want to, maintain their pescatarian habits. And if you want your good steak, good South African steak, we have that as well. Wine, cocktails have really sort of again, etched themselves as part of sort of the experience that people come for. We have a beautiful poolside. So if you're looking as a leisure guest to come and relax, or a business guest after hours, there's a beautiful, ample spaced poolside. And it just has so many little corners. Conferencing, I forgot to tell you about that. We went into conferencing, and again, this period when we were building during the COVID era allowed us to explore how we could again make a mark for ourselves as the City Lodge Hotels. So in my view, the key factors that contribute to the growth of tourism in Africa, and again, I'll use South Africa because that is my familiar ground as a hotelier, I think certainly are just the attractions. As South Africa, we're so proud of all the fauna, the flora, the mountains, the sea, the people, the culture, the food. There's just so much to explore and to discover. And it doesn't matter which of our 9 provinces you visit, where we have hotels located in each of these 9 provinces, there's always something. If you go to the Kruger National Park, we have our 2 hotels, the Road Lodge and Town Lodge, located conveniently close there. If you go to our hotels in the Eastern Cape, in Tebega, we have the Addo National Park. So just all those beautiful, wonderful places to go to. And I would think it would be the same if we as South Africans were traveling to, say, Rwanda to go and see the gorillas, or to Kenya to go and visit their beautiful national parks, or visit their beaches in Mombasa. I do also think that what is important in sort of sustaining our growth is transformation. I spoke of transformation of City Lodge hotels in terms of how our template and how our hotels have sort of, grown in stature. But transformation also in terms of the South African government's national imperative of broad-based Black economic empowerment. So, City Lodge Hotels has been very, very supportive, and we believe in transformation from the heart. We trade at a level 3 BEE level, and we work very hard at maintaining that through the 5 elements, be it through ownership, management control, having an executive committee that is diverse and inclusive of women and age and color and just all sorts of aspects that are important. But more importantly also is skills development, one of those elements of transformation, and making sure that we have a skilled workforce. We work very hard at training not only our existing workforce, but also participating in programs like the YES program, which was a presidential imperative of our South African president. We find it's very important also to participate in enterprise and supplier development, the ESD program, and we have partnered with SATSA, which is one of our South African tourism associations, in making sure that every year we are growing the incubatees that we are able to trade with either as enterprises or suppliers in our procurement chains. And of course, our CSI efforts are also notable. But over and above that, I think sustained tourism infrastructure is important, and that's where government plays their role. So that macro level oversight by government is such an important part, making sure that our roads work, making sure that load shedding is alleviated and stopped, and that eventually we can have seamless supplies of energy. Water scarcity, which is becoming a challenge, also needs to be addressed, and I think is getting the attention that it should be getting. Of course, we want to make it easy for people to travel on the continent. And so those e-visas that each of the countries that either we trade with or have travelers coming from can really have easy ways of accessing e-visas. And so we really rely on our governments in working together on the African continent to make it just so much easier to travel. Of course, safety and security is something that we cannot shy away from. Every area of the continent where tourism activities take place should be secure and safe, and should give every guest who is traveling, or every tourist who is traveling, that sense of safety, security, presence, and visibility of security officers, be it the police or some of the tourism buddy systems that have been implemented across the country. I could go on in terms of what other things, but I think in terms of highlighting it, we as hoteliers also play an important role in making sure that we keep our guests safe and secure when they come into our hotels, and City Lodge Hotels has always made that an important and emphatic part of our service delivery. More importantly is just making sure that we're always accommodating our guests and making sure that we listen to them, as we've done in the past. And introducing food and beverage was because we realized that in order to sustain our longevity as a hotelier group, we had to provide food and beverage, provide safe and secure environment, and of course exciting and beautiful venues that have all sorts of lovely offerings,